Not Twilight lowered herself into a battle stance. Every pony, get ready. She won't be using polite pretenses now that things have gone off script.
You'd think she'd do something to sweet-bell the others? Asked Banneret, with Rarity-like concern.
She wouldn't kill them. She's still Fluttershy, I assured him.
At least, not without Nightmare Eclipse there insisting it's the kindest thing she could do. She's sane enough now to realize it's all hogwash. Which is probably why she's doing this, Mira sighed. It was like a brick to the chest. I felt staggered, even without moving from where I stood. Mira lowered her head and breathed in with a shudder. It's my fault. I'm the one who made her that way. Wrong. She made herself that way. Nightmare Mira snapped her head up at me with a look of pained shock. Great, now she knows how it feels.
It's true, I argued. I mean, just look at Rarity. Rarity's not a nightmare because she resisted, every fucking time, no matter what kind of pressure we brought down on her. She never finished the transformation. Fluttershy became Nightmare Whisper because she crumbled in a moment of weakness. It was her choice, same as all of us. To think, out of all of us, it'd be Rarity who'd have that kind of inexhaustible, unconquerable willpower. Not something you'd have ever expected, looking at any of her rare grade variants. But my truth-obsessed companion sputtered. Is that supposed to make me feel exonerated? You can't just lay all the blame on her. I talked her into it. I was a vulture. We're nightmares. We're all vultures. Stop it, Grampoline whispered. Fire's hot, ice is cold, oceans are deep, and us nightmares are destructive monsters that ruin everything we come in contact with. None of us destructive monsters would be here if Eclipse hadn't eaten up our Twilights the same way she did yours, Banneret seethed, pointing a claw at me. Fluttershy was the worst victim of us. She resisted longer than any of us. Eclipse may have started the cycle, but we helped her keep it spinning. I don't want to hurt Fluttershy, Grampoline whimpered. I'm gonna knock sense into her with or without your approval. See? The voice of Whisper echoed around us all. This is why I didn't want you to remember. Without Twilight here, all we do is argue. We all drew closer to each other. I couldn't tell which specific direction Nightmare Whisper's voice was coming from. We were friends again, and now we're all fighting, Whisper lamented. I want to be back with the real Twilight again. I want to be back with Twilight too, I agreed, softly. More than anything I've ever wanted before. I don't want us to fight either, Fluttershy, Grampoline shouted. But that's the dark magic talking, not you! Ah, heck. Whisper's voice had come from a huge fog rising right out of the ground of Ponyville, engulfing every pony below into it. Real ponies and those inside puppet shells wavered, the pupils of their eyes growing larger until they nearly took up their entire eye, smiling mindlessly at nothing. The ponies who were not real continued their program routines for a few seconds before stopping in their tracks.
Oh, no you don't!
Mira spread her wings to their full expanse, the emerald eyes on her armor glowing. Shining like Princess Celestia from atop the library roof, Mira reflected the sunlight off her wings and burned away the fog. That was only Act 1. Next, the light reflecting off her wings caused the illusions on the puppets to melt away, clearing the heads of the real ponies present, making them all too aware of their reality. Their happy faces vanished as the illusion and their memories burned away next, making them remember they'd been playing house with automatons. She didn't get all of them, but she got more than enough to ruffle Whisper's feathers. Nightmare Mira? Well, she didn't care about the panic her raw truth had just set off. But Applejack grit her teeth at the sight. Jackie, are you sure that was a good idea? Grampoline asked. I was coming to notice that out of all of us, she was acting the least like her nightmare self. Like the spirit of the original sweet-hearted Pinkie Pie had been lodged in an undeservedly monstrous shell.
Did you have any better ones?
The mortals were in panic mode, horrified by the puppets that had replaced their families and neighbors. Seeing 3 nightmares of a huge dragon perched on the roof did nothing to soothe their mood. Lyra and Bonbon hugged each other upon seeing the faceless wooden dummies Junebug and Candy had been all along. Eternity was hugging Button Mash, running inside her house to protect him from us, only to find the dummy that had been standing in for her husband blocking the door. Derpy turned to Dr. Hooves for advice, then screamed, pulling her fillies away from the marionette with the Time Lord's features. I heard Shirley's cry of dismay and horror when she realized the majority of the foals she was herding to City Hall for protection were just glorified dolls. And then there was my weather team, flying about like mad, Thunderline trying to keep them calm and failing in the face of their cruel reality. Not Twilight looked on in pain. Stop! Mother is protecting every pony from nothingness and Tartarus! How can you be so evil? Shouted a voice just like Fluttershy's. Now we're going to have to erase all their memories and hard reset Ponyville, then tidy up and give you the punishment you deserve. Posy Nice flew high above Ponyville, having showed up out of nowhere. Mira gave a sad look to the one who had been the cruelest of Discord's daughter, the one who had punished her the most, the one who had lashed out the hardest at even the slightest offense of Discord's parenting.
How did you, Flutter Cruel?
My name is Flutter Nice! She stamped her hoof in the air and undid the clasps on her cloak. Fluttered off her, taking the illusion of Posy Nice with it. A pink mane, blue eyes, yellow fur, all so vibrant even I could tell it was garish. One of her forelegs was replaced by a griffin claw, and the opposite hind leg was a dragon's foot. She flapped her wings, one of them that of a bat pony, and the other a butterfly wing like her mother's. She was wearing platinum armor with a butterfly carved into the petrol. Her cutie mark was covered by a sticker with a picture of a winged heart. Auntie Granflin and Uncle Banneret and Auntie Smear and Manacle are all happy to see you're okay, Flutternice. We were also worried about what happened to you.
Granflin grinned with a twitch. I mean, getting the front door to our evil lair was really lonely work, only because she butchers everything done enough to try.
And we left you all alone without a full sitter.
Pay the sitter who has to get this full under control. When we were fighting to destroy Equestria for the quadrillionth time.
But let's all come down and discuss this over cake. And we can find a new home for all these ponies and we can turn ourselves in and—
No! Flutternice and her mom's voices chorused. Animals in pink and yellow began to materialize out of a new ring of fog around Ponyville. Whispers constructs, all marching right towards us.
I don't like doing this. Well, I do, but I don't like liking it.
I didn't even try to decode this head-spinning double negative.
You're being bad. You need to be punished, and we need to make sure nobody gets hurt.
The waving of Flutternice's hooves mirrored the formation and direction of her mom's constructs. At the same time, the puppets opened up like used cocoons. Puppet strings shot out like cobras, wrapping around the real ponies and pulling them into their dark insides, kicking and screaming. I saw Soren and Spitfire flying away from Cloudsdale, chased by the empty shells trying to eat them up. And those already in puppet shells, like the pink and silver fillies down below, found their bodies moving all on their own, unable to do anything but scream.
What are you waiting for, Auntie Mir? Stop the puppets from helping the ponies sleep.
Flutternice smiled as she said this, her eye twitching. Mir growled. If I stop using my wings, she can just recreate the fog, she warned us all. That doesn't stop us. The Night Terror snapped and destroyed a puppet of Lily.
Uncle Banneret, that's not nice. Stop right now, or I'm going to have fun. I mean, it won't be fun. Won't be fun.
There was nothing beautiful about this. There was no justice, no satisfaction. Nothing about it was funny. I had given my Fluttercruel the hard knocks I could during our battles to liberate Equestria. I remember this kid, reduced to a filly in body as she already was in spirit, stabbing herself over and over to punish herself as much as possible for everything she'd done until her mother stopped her. There was this issue of Batmare I read once, where Batmare had to resist skipping along and giggling like a school filly when the ineffective government-controlled justice herd was getting the snoppy out of them. I thought it was cool back then, seeing them get their just desserts. Now, I felt sorry for Flutternice, and just a bit sick to my stomach. She looked like part of her wanted to tear something to shreds. The other part of her was ready to stab herself in the side for even thinking about it. If nothing else made me regret waking up, this wretched, pathetic thing came pretty close. I'd given her horseback rides back in our realm. I'd played Animal Forest and Harvest Sun with her. I'd helped Whisper give her the full head she never had. I'd watched her punish other versions of herself as a gift to me. And I never once thought there was anything wrong. Now I see what we are all blind to before. She was just as much a victim as any pony else.
Please, Nice, none of us want to hurt you, Granflin begged.
Please, just stop, little filly, Nut Twilight beseeched.
Huh?
Flutternice stared at the imposter still wearing Twilight's shell.
How is that puppet?
Banneret crushed the puppets of Rose and Daisy down below and nudged Berry Punch and her daughter to safety.
That's it! I'm going to show you how much I love you all!
Flutternice screamed. Her non-pony limbs disconnected from her body like Mr. Ponytato head parts, only for replacements to shimmer into being a moment later. The sticker on Flutternice's rump peeled away, just a little. She snarled. 4 new constructs grew from her limbs. Flutterbat, Flutterdrake, Fluttergriff, and Flutterfly? Flutterflutter? Whatever. Black rods like the ones that impaled Princess Cadence and most loops appeared in each one's limbs. They all assumed fighting poses.
Be modest, be grateful, be polite, be civil!
Great attachments exclaimed nicely in turn.
5 times the pain for you means 5 times the love you know I have for you. Wait, no. Mommy said those thoughts are bad. I need to smile. But I should be sad when I need to hurt some pony. She said hurting you is bad, but I need to hurt you so you don't hurt yourself. And Mommy's always right. So that means I can hurt you and you'll know it's because I love you. Yippee!
I've said it trillions of times before, and I'll say it now. That girl needs therapy. Mira sighed. Darkness and negativity. That's what I'll focus on. I was a nightmare after all, so darkness was better, and negativity safer. No heroics. Never again. Heroism was a jinx for me. Nothing but a doomed jinx. I looked at all 4 of my friends, each one determined to fight to the bitter end for each other and the ponies we dragged into this mess. I may not know how best to deal with Ponyville ponies, but I can still protect my friends. I couldn't stop my blood from boiling at the idea of a straight-up fight to save the innocents. Bring it!
As you wish, Rainbow Dash.
Fluttershy's voice chorused from the constructs. I heard a huge clock tick. It shook the entire world. The puppets and constructs froze in place, and even the ponies stood still in confusion.
This is the battle Auntie Manacle wants, Flutternice, and she's going to want a proper opening.
Yes, Mama! A countdown appeared in the sky.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let the show begin!
Like a fiend from the underworld that emerged, as big as an Ursa. Several beastly constructs glowing the same blue as her magic pulled at it with black chains, like it had trouble rising up from however long it had been sleeping. For a moment, it looked like the dragon I'd fought the other day, before the illusion dissolved to show the creature beneath. The ground trembled with every movement. Town Hall crumbled under the weight of her constructs, plowing straight through the building without a second thought. Stained dragon claws dragged along the ground, leaving lines in the dirt. Gossamer wings the size of grand ship sails reflected patterns of ponies in fetal positions. She had a naturally faded and dirty yellow coat. On her flanks were a trio of blue-winged butterflies. A long pink tail moved behind her, ropes together in thick cords that twitched more like muscle than hair. Small lilies dotted along it. Lean but dense muscle covered her legs and neck. Her torso was still equine, though her neck was a little long. Her mane was corded and dotted with flowers like her tail, covering one eye. The other eye was glowing an intense blue, highlighting her near-skeletal face. A horn stuck out from her forehead, cracked and bleeding in places. Heavy shackles were sealed around her ankles and neck, stained with blood from the spikes digging into her flesh. The chains were pulled along by the construct army. Her sweeping tail and heavy steps left ruin in her wake. I felt a knife pierce through where my heart might have been.
"This is what you want from me," sighed Nightmare Whisper. "This is what you're making me do. I'm sorry, but I know you, Rainwood Ash. You won't go back to sleep and rest easy until you've tried your hardest to stay awake." "Auntie Pinkie Pie didn't want this for you," Granfloon whispered.
"Fluttershy, you were beautiful before," Banneret said, looking sick at the sight of her. "Rarity would be heartbroken." Mira hung her head. "I did this to you despite everything, but you took it just a step further. Damn it." The tears fell silently down Lot Twilight's cheeks. My heart went out to my companions.
"Can we get started now, Mommy?" Flutternice asked, her hopes shaking. I don't feel so good."
That was an understatement. She looked sick to her stomach.
"Just hold on for a little while, dear. They won't last long."
"You can tell, Rat," Mira whispered. "The way ponies wanted to neutralize you and Twilight way back then, that's what Fluttershy's done to her. And now the reins are coming off." I shuddered. Thanks for the warning.
"I'm not sure I like her odds,"
Granfloon hummed. It wasn't encouraging. Mira was forced to keep Whisper from using her trump card, leaving just me, Banneret, Granfloon, and Twilight Light. We were up against Flutternice and her detachments armed with concept-killing weapons, an army of puppets with built-in hostages, and a respawning army of constructs, not to mention the Dracozilla wannabe herself. "It's okay, it's Manacle," I told myself. "It's okay. In the end, this is nothing new for you. One of the few things you can always count on, Nightmare Manacle, is being fucked over by your friends." Twilight Light put a hoof on my withers. "I can't promise you'll find what you want when you escape, but I can promise things aren't as desperate as they look." "We'll talk later," I promised. The giant nightmare crawled ever closer to us, and Flutternice was pulling at the bit to fight us. The normal ponies looked petrified at the absolute madness they had been thrown into, understanding less than half of the things we were saying to each other. "Any chance you happen to have an element of magic and a spare element of kindness we can borrow?" I asked Twilight Light. "One short. Sorry."
"That's enough!"
My eyes telescoped on the source. A little pink filly with a blonde mane and blue eyes. On her back hovered a pair of wings, black and detached from her body. She was holding Sweetie Belle and Apple Bloom close to her. They were surrounded by the puppets that had pretended to be Sweetie Belle's parents and Applejack's brother and grandmother. Poor fillies.
"Apple Bloom, Sweetie Belle, being friends with you made me very happy. That was real. The friendship we had was real. It wasn't just a replacement for your relationship with Scootaloo."
"Scooter who?" Sweetie Belle and Apple Bloom looked confused and a little pained. There was a slashing sound and a circular flash of light, and the 4 puppets were cut in 2, falling limply to the ground. I didn't know whether to feel sorry for the fillies, confused at what I just saw, or relieved. "I promise I'll be back as soon as I can." She kissed them both on the forehead and flapped her wings, and then a flash appeared in front of Mare, who was being dragged by strings towards the puppets of her husband and child.
"Not the nightmares, please! I don't want to be a statue!" Mare yelled.
There was another flash of light and sound of slashing metal, and the puppet strings were cut away, followed by the puppets.
"Bright Night, please, what's going on? Where is my family?" Mare gasped.
"I'm sorry, Mare." Bright Night looked at her wistfully. "Your family was never in this Ponyville, but we're here to save all of you." Her key mark sparkled into being, a set of yellow and blue stars. Her wings grew to the size of an adult and engulfed her, then flew apart to show a fully grown mare wielding an obsidian sword like she had magnets in her hose. She was wearing a red cape lined in gold, with a patch on one side showing the Crusader symbol, and the other showing a skull.
"My name is Starlight Angel, honorary Thestral."
"What the fucking what?" The Spa Twin puppets jumped her, but she darted away so fast that they just crashed into each other. Starlight bowed to the 2 fillies.
"I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. I can explain everything later, and I hope you can forgive me."
The puppets and constructs forgot about the Ponyville ponies and turned towards her in tandem, swarming like bees to a threat to their hive. Flutternice's detachments were quick to follow.
"You're not welcome here! Get out! We don't want you! Get out! Get out!"
"Granfloon, watch Mir!" I dove down. "I can defend myself, you know!"
Banneret moved the best he could, but he had an entire town half full of real living ponies that he seemed intent on saving. Part of me was delighted and amazed. They were trying to save others, sincerely save others. Part of me was alarmed. Didn't they have any idea that it wasn't going to work? When has a nightmare ever done anything right? The third part hissed paranoia into my ears. What if this was some trick? What if this too had been staged? My seemingly heroic friends were trying to deceive me. Fabrications then fabrications. Ugh, even Discord hated those plot twists. No pony likes a repeat trick. So, you ever gonna tell me what's going on? I asked, wrapping a chain around the puppet of a garbage collector pony and slamming it into the ground. In a second, Starlight promised as she sliced through a puppet of, one of the puppetfuls, archers. At least they aren't self-aware. Fluttergriff grabbed Starlight's cape. Don't you remember the golden rule? No capes! I make my own rules, thank you, Starlight said firmly. She yanked her cape back and used it to slam Fluttergriff into the ground, comic book style. Well, Twilight Light smiled. If Starlight's going to come out to help them, it would be selfish for me not to do the same. She held up her spellbook. I finally realized it for what it was, in one hoof like Starlight, and the pages flipped by themselves like crazy. Come on out, Twinkle Wish! A little yellow star with a cute face flew out. There was a flash of rainbow light along the seams of the puppet shell she'd been wearing, then it blew apart into sparkles. For once there had been a perfect replica of Twilight's sparkle, now stood a much weirder looking mare. Her fur was purple, but more bluish than Twilight's. Her eyes were baby blue, and her mane and tail were white with streaks of blue and pink in them. Her cutie mark was a gift box. What was weird was her body shape. Longer, more squarish muzzle, smaller eyes, rounder body shape. Her mane curled more where it let out of her braid, managing to look both windswept and perfectly neat. She had a turquoise heart in her right hoof, and I swear the lights reflected in her eyes were shaped like hearts. The star flew around her in a swirl of stardust, and dark purple swirl markings flashed on her hooves, neck, and the places wings or a horn might be. The star flew into her cutie mark and merged with it, appearing on both flanks behind the present. She moved with a few flourishes before striking a pose. My eye caught all these details in an instant. I hadn't seen her before, but a part of me screamed that I knew this mare. And the more I looked at her, the more memories of another part of me came screaming out, wanting to be remembered and known. Was this? Razaru Twinkle Wish, candidate concept! Was that really necessary? Mira asked. I'm from the Age of Dreams, let me have my fun! Okay, cool, another stranger! Is any pony gonna tell me what the hell's happening? I shouted. Razaru! Granflin ignored me to tackle Razaru in a hug, completely trusting, wrapping her crayon drawing wings around her body and sobbing hard enough to streak her makeup. I'm with Auntie Manacle, who the hey are you? Fluttered and I screamed in confusion as Starlight bucked her in the head. Razaru spoke. In another life, another time, I was the big sister to the mare whose soul would someday become Twilight Sparkle. In my new life, I recorded memories for ponies who lived so much in the now that tomorrow and yesterday were an endless blur. Now, I work with the Alicorns in the hopes of one day becoming the idea of miracles. And I'm here to help you, Pinkie Pie, and all my other dear friends. I never thought I'd see you again! Like Minty. Raz, I'm so sorry! Time loop stories are played for comedy. They're silly stories. They're not supposed to be serious. They are supposed to be like our world. More tears leaked from her eyes, but not happy ones. Raz, I have a lot of Minties to apologize to, don't I? Razaru hugged her back, gently nuzzling. And many other ponies, dragons, squid ponies from planet Alpha C2, two-headed living magma ponies from Galaxy 23BR. It's gonna take a while, isn't it? Don't worry, she sighed happily. We can take as much time as you want. I'll take as much time as you want. Can we have a me and my friends aren't evil anymore party after? Razaru squeezed her tighter. I promise. Granfloon wiped away her painted tear. I guess the most beautiful part of any loop is when it ends. Otherwise, it's no different from a party that never ends. And the parties stop being parties, don't they? I'm so proud of you, Pinkie Pie. Razaru smiled gently. Twilight, Minty would be proud. Thank you for being my friend. I was scared I'd never see any of you again. Thanks for being my friend. And don't be scared. I'm not going anywhere now. Pinkie Pie casually kicked a leg back at a chimera concept that dared try to interrupt their millions of years overdue reunion hug, sending it flying. Razaru blasted a lion-sized angel bunny into the sky without blinking. Dreams do come true. Yes, they really do. So about those answers, I insisted, electrocuting a giant bear construct. With pleasure, Starlight said, slashing a shield of sword strikes around her two little friends. Just help cover me, would you? Spike began sumo wrestling with the giant nightmare, only for Flutter Knights and her detachments to gang up on him. This battle was total pandemonium. Flutter Knights and her fragments were zipping this way and that like ping pong balls, keeping us off balance. Granflin was defending Mirror while she kept the fog from trapping us all again. Starlight was busy protecting the ponies from the puppets, and I was protecting Starlight. Banneret was trying to fight the giant nightmare Whisper directly, but the construct clawing at his legs and floating ice's fragments flying at his face kept his attention divided, giving Whisper the advantage. I wish I knew what Razuru was up to. After finally breaking her hug with Granfaloon, she seems to be charging up that spellbook of hers with some sort of super powerful spell, while hitting the baddies with smaller laser blasts. As for the Ponyville ponies, their normal lives had gone from a rigid but simple existence to a swirling maelstrom of madness in under a minute. These poor ponies couldn't make heads or tails of what was going on. Being protected by monsters from other monsters that were supposed to be their friends and family, and it only got more insane from there. I'd have to be even crazier than I already am to expect any of them to help fight. Discord would have been delighted at all this, while my endless years of experience working for him kept my brain from breaking in two. Ugh. Ever since that fateful day when I abandoned my friends in favor of Cloudstill, I haven't been able to manage one single successful attempt at helping other ponies. At least, with unequivocally happy, beneficial end results for everyone involved. What's with that look? I had a lot of feelings going through my head at the time, okay? Alright, you wanted answers, right, Dash? Well, listen up, Starlight called, while fending off puppets of Minuet, Twinkle, Shine, and Lemon Hearts. For starters, we couldn't just blast this fake Ponyville apart. Every pony inside would be sucked into the void between universes, and while you nightmares might survive, the mortals would be beyond even my boss's reach within minutes. We tried just seizing the entrance, but Nightmare Eclipse's security system still running well enough to relocate your rebel every time we came close. But they were only set to detect complete concepts and true Thestrals. None of you ever considered candidate concepts or adopted Thestrals as even a possibility, did you? Razuri smirked, blasting away a pack of Timberwolf constructs. Cheater! Flutternice hissed. What about Twilight? Surely an ex-Nightmare, a mayor of her power, could have been able to— She became a true Alicorn the moment the elements hit her. There's no way she'd be able to squeeze past even her own wards. Believe me, if we could get the concepts here, Trixie and Cadence would be here on the front lines, Starlight snorted. Genuine grin tugged at my lips. So Trixie survived after all. I remembered that loop. Trixie, ascended to Alicornhood by that line's Cadence, had been the first and only pony to ever do lasting damage to Eclipse. I hated her for it at the time, but now? And to top that off, Starlight continued, as we fought back to back, we couldn't begin evacuating the Immortals until Nightmare Whisper was forced to drop her facade. Otherwise, we'd be seen as invaders rather than rescuers. And we need every pony to trust us to get them out of here. You can't evacuate them! They'll die or be erased! Whisper's voice screamed. You know, Whisper has a point, I told Starlight. What exactly is out there? How's the state of the universe nowadays beyond our little hell bubble? Please tell me it's not some post-apocalyptic wasteland or something. Starlight gave me an amusedly exasperated look. Come on, have a bit of faith in us. Did you really think we'd come all this way without a plan? Discord was allowed to fuck around with our planet for 1,000 years. Then Eclipse and the rest of us were allowed to yank it around for a few aeons more. None of your bosses did shit about it. Forgive me for not having much trust in a bunch of gods too blinded by the big picture to do what needs to be done. All traces of amusement still off Starlight's face. She leveled a glare at me so intense, I'm sure it'd single-handedly sent some of her wards to Tartarus. Apparently, I said something wrong. She flicked a hoof and pulled a scroll from midair, then threw it at me. I unfurled it and looked it over. It was one of those weird cosmically infinite things. I could see the bottom in the corner of my vision, but never seemed to reach it. Down the list was the same entry, over and over again. The time varied by a few hours, and the cause of death bounced between the few options, but always the same name, always the same day. As I read, Starlight calmly recited the first entry from memory. Poison Apple, died 153609 on March 13th, 967 Discord's reign. Cause of death, blood loss, caused by torture. That was Poison Apple number 1's death. Number 2 lasted a whole 2 minutes 31 seconds more. Number 3, 2 minutes 22 seconds less. Clerical was especially created with number 5, and took a whole hour, 2 minutes, and 29 seconds longer to murder her. Imagine having to write that entry over and over again, knowing each time it's not some puppet or useless background character being slaughtered, but a little filly, only just old enough for a cutie mark, being tortured till her last breath while you can't do a thing without breaking rules that exist for a damn good reason. I took a trot back. Starlight casually impaled a Wolverine construct that tried jumping me and tossed it over her shoulder. Mortis doesn't even need a list. He could tell you the exact circumstances of each death from memory. Abatissa heard every last prayer, Gaia wept with each one at Heaven's gates, Venus saw each one reunited with her lost family members. And that's not even counting every nudge they gave to the ponies in Discord's hell, helping things down a brighter path. Seeing all of the picture is part of the job description, but there's only so much they can do without ripping the world apart. I stomped through a mole construct's head. And who are they to make that call? What about all the souls who suffered because of it? Don't they get a say? Celestia's mother is literally all empathy, everywhere. Every feeling, every ounce of suffering, she feels them too. Do you really think some pony like that would let suffering continue if there was a better way? Weren't you immortal once? Why do you even care what I think about the gods? Because for every time I've watched the universe die, I also saw every last concept mourn the loss of every pony within it. She sighed, slashing at a stray squirrel construct, then held up her left hoof. You know how I got this ring? I shook my head. Venus herself holds the wedding of every last couple that dies without getting the chance to see their vows through. So forgive me if I don't share your feelings on the concept's apparent uselessness. Fine, but I still didn't see them doing anything except send rancor in a few million years too late. Nightmare Eclipse shielded you more than you realize, but we were still there with you every step of the way. Miu's courage, Penicilla's sacrifice, Strife's fighting spirit, you've never been alone, not even in your darkest moments. We turned back to back and spun in a furious circle of blades and hooves. Everything I used to be has been stolen from me. How am I supposed to have faith in anything? Starlight backhoofed a giant vampire fruit bat. Look around, your friends haven't lost faith in you. What are you fighting for, huh? What great good are you trying to achieve? I had to think about it, even as I drop-kicked a puppetry. I'm fighting because I want ponies to live in a world free of nightmares. You want ponies to live, Starlight repeated, pointedly. Well, that's... I stopped, thinking over what she'd just said. What I'd just said. You want ponies to live, Starlight said again. Have faith in that, and have faith that always, somewhere, some pony is fighting for you. By now, my brain was providing rebuttals to myself without Starlight's help. Razaru danced by, firing shots at the puppets between grasping strings. You want to know what would have happened if we hadn't woken you up first? Whisper would have made sure we're just another villain for a playset, and we'd have had another 4 nightmares to fight on top of her and Fluttercruel. I gave her a look, even as I snapped apart a puppet's neck with my chains, freeing the Pegasus within. Wouldn't we have noticed we're fighting with super equine strength pretty quickly? Rainbow Dash, you know full well that if you got a random boost in power mid-battle, you'd have chalked it up to the magic of awesomeness, Starlight snorted. You wouldn't have cared, the others wouldn't have noticed, and even if you did, I'm sure Fluttershy would have come up with some excuse. I rolled my eyes, but didn't argue. But now you've got your memories back, a lot of Whisper's security system is shutting down, Razaru continued. She might be the director right now, but this world is your creation. Fluttershy needed a Twilight to slot into your group, but all she had was a poorly programmed puppet with a few stock phrases. Perfect for any pony who needed to get close to you. The current wave of enemies were thinning in number, making it easier for us to chat for protracted lengths of time. Mine was a little trickier, Starlight picked up. You did pretty well glossing over the hole where Scootaloo should be, but the hole was still there. Every real pony here remembered a third member of the Cunemar Crusaders, a Pegasus filly who admired you. Once I slipped in, their memories simply adjusted around me. The fog kept them from noticing when I didn't act like her, and the Flutters most likely assumed I was created automatically to fill in the obvious gap, especially since this world's still attuned to you. She gave Bright and I the chance to give the Twilight puppet the book with my essence, allowing me to slip inside. I just had to play the role of Twilight Sparkle whenever Whisper had her eyes on me. Both Shy and Nice assumed the other had updated the programming, and neither bothered to check. Razaru turned to look at the giant nightmare and tilted her head. You never once thought to consider the idea of a mole, did you? Banneret blew a spurt of flame in Whisper's place, only to get shoved aside as she screamed. I need to keep you all safe. I wanted to give you the happiness Discord stole. I just did everything as best I could. I'm sorry I wasn't perfect. You're not Twilight, and this isn't my world. I had to work so hard to keep you asleep, Rainbow, for the sake of every pony. Please, you've been through so much pain already. I just wanted you to be happy. Thought my heart was nothing but scar tissue by now, but hearing my first and oldest friend cry for us, I felt it crack all over again. Fluttershy. I brought us all in here to protect us and the ponies you saved, Rainbow. Why can't you just leave them be? And save them for this bullshit? Fight them, she begged, pointing an enormous claw at Starlight and Razaru. The puppets and constructs turned to match her gaze. They're the real monsters. No, I growled. After all the different ways we've killed all these ponies, timeline after timeline, we nightmares have no right even talking with mortals, let alone deciding what's best for them. I'm done controlling their lives. You've denied all these ponies the chance to live their lives, and you've denied your friends the chance to seek forgiveness. Starlight hissed as she fought off a horde of puppet guards that Banneret had to help quash. Who cares about redemption or forgiveness as long as we're all happy and safe? Whisper pleaded. I cared. I had cared about redemption. I'd cared about forgiveness. It was like I was being stabbed in the heart again. You two-faced, patronizing, string-pulling, kidnapping snake! I roared. You're not even sorry! You lie like Eclipse! You haven't changed at all! You're still the same hypocrite you were working with her! Your show's over, and I'm taking you down like I should have her! You're going to kill me, Rainbow? I chuckled. No, not even I could go that far, Shy. But by now, it couldn't be clearer to me that we nightmares will never be anything but irredeemable toxic waste. And the only thing to do with toxic waste is throw it in some wasteland where it can't hurt any pony anymore. That's what I'm gonna do to you, Fluttershy. You and the rest of our sorry asses. Dude, Banneret breathed, wide-eyed. Mira just rolled her eyes. Granflin looked hurt. You're not irredeemables! Razaru cried. You're driven insane, brainwashed, manipulated. You have a freaking spike in your brain! Judicium isn't gonna throw you in Tartarus for that!
Jujishim? Banneret repeated, and both he and I turned towards Razaru. Sounds to me like this is as much an arrest as it is a rescue. Am I right?
In a manner of speaking, yes, Razaru shrugged. But knowing Jujishim, you're most likely going to be sentenced to a few thousand years of community service and therapy, not eternal damnation.
Well, it's about fucking time, said Mir, smiling wider than she had in centuries. We'll do the time for all our crimes, and justice will finally be served, smiled Banneret.
Yippee! Granfloon cheered, bouncing up and down, then snuggling up next to me. Hey Dashi, there's no pony I'd rather be toxic waste with than you, you know? All you guys! This is gonna be so great! They all seemed so happy, so free-spirited, so together, grinning at each other, at me, like the good old days. I grinned back at them all with a lightness in my heart and faced forward. So, Fluttershy, you ready to come down and own up to what we did like an adult? Or do we have to drag you back kicking and screaming?
No, we're not going anywhere! The Diet Nightmare roared, unleashing a stream of smoke from her mouth. Banneret easily countered it with his own flames.
I don't know what kind of evil mind control these dogs have you under, but we'll save you, aunties and uncle, Flutternice shouted, and her detachments all chorused their agreement. You're only making this harder on yourself, Fluttershy, shouted Razaru.
Shouldn't you be defending this world, Razaru?
Whisper's voice bellowed.
A perfect place where every pony can be happy forever, just like your own?
No, my world was self-contradicting, innocent, naive, but it was never fake like yours. Every pony made their own choices in it. This place is a mockery of everything my world was. I second that motion, Granfloon shouted, firing a giant noisemaker at point-blank range towards Flutterbat, leaving the detachment's ears ringing, followed by a giant pie sending the bat pony sailing into a building. Starlight turned to me. As you can see, Manacle, we need you to forsake this fake world because your heart is the key, she said, sweeping Appleloo and Sweetie Belle out of the path of the Trixie puppet and escorting them to safety. Razaru gave me a glance as she twirled between a swarm of constructs like a ballerina and set off a burst of starlight, setting them all ablaze. I really am sorry I couldn't accompany you on your journey, Rainbow Dash, but I couldn't risk Nightmare Whisper finding me out. Just wish you could have explained this all before, I sighed. She opened her mouth to reply, then her ears flickered. She looked at some salt behind me and smiled. Actually, I did tell someone. A few very important fillies who managed to get away from Flutternice, and made sure they told other friends. I told them it was their decision, but knowing them, they should be here right about. There was a sound like thunder. I turned to look. For a moment, it looked like sunset, a massive orange and violet across the horizon. Then, they... Sorry. I think I got something in my eye. They were all coming. I thought I was going to stop them. Orange is my new favorite color. 171,015 little heroes. I know I should have been upset at seeing foals taking part in a battle, but out of 171,000 fillies, all of them came to help. No, Scootaloos, get back! I heard Flutternice shout. None of them listened. Granfloon took a photograph. It was easier to count who wasn't slack-jawed. Marionettes and constructs held their assault, their puppet masters frozen in awe. They moved like a flood, only barely managing to avoid flattening everything in their path. The lead Scootaloo shouted, and I know exactly which Scootaloo she was. Fear us, evil puppet masters, for we are the Scootaloo Alliance Army of Awesome! Laughing, Banneret cried, Rainbow Dash, you've got to start teaching this filly's little thing called good taste. A smattering of Scootaloos had figured out how to fly even with their tiny wings, taking charge and directing the swarm from above. Yeah, they were like a swarm of changelings, fighting as one living creature. Fitting, given her heritage. I slammed into Ponyville as a whole, swallowing up the constructs and puppets, but passing by us and the Ponyville ponies without touching a hair on our coats. The constructs and puppets automatically defended themselves, but they didn't last for long. They were now the ones outnumbered and outclassed. Even if Scootaloo's brain didn't remember her race feature, apparently their souls did. Now that's more like it, Wings, said the Scootaloo as she sent an airborne construct crashing to the ground. You get him, Skirts! Tear him to pieces! I heard myself scream at the top of my lungs. Show 'em what you're made of! Let's find out what they're made of, shouted one Scootaloo as she tore a construct apart. Good one! I'd forgotten what it felt like to smile this wide, to feel this genuinely, amazingly happy. Nightmare Whisper screamed in frustration, and a flood's worth of constructs materialized from her ring of fog, so many at once that just their manifestation pushed half of them towards Ponyville. I watched as the Scootaloo Alliance Army of Awesome moved together to meet them head-on. Orange and Violet crashed with Yellow and Pink, and Orange one hooves down, viciously tearing the constructs apart faster than Whisper could make them. They weren't just fighting blindly or individually either. I watched them support each other's flanks, cover each other's weaknesses, and it was too much. I fell on my haunches, my tears hit the ground. I felt I could fly to heaven. You get him, Scootaloo. You're unbeatable. I wasn't even shouting anymore. It felt like Celestia's sun had been ignited in my chest. Don't worry, called one flying Scootaloo, who took Apple Bloom from Starlight, embracing her. We'll take care of them from here, said another, taking hold of Sweetie Belle and nuzzling her. The looks in their eyes. They recognized. They remembered. Scootaloo? Apple Bloom breathed out. Hey, Apple Bloom, it's been a while. I'm happy to see you're safe. Me too, Sweetie Belle. I'm so happy you got saved with me. I looked around and saw it everywhere. One Scootaloo acted as a personal bodyguard to Mare Mare, another was the guardian angel to Maternity and Button Mash, and another assistant to Cheerily. Two fought along Spitfire and Soren, the pair of Wonderbolts refusing to surrender to the world. Don't ask me how I knew, or how they did. Every Scootaloo that could, they migrated like magnets to the pony who had been saved along with them, and fought with the experience of those who had grown up during a war. If anyone deserved to swoop in and be the hero, I'm glad it was her. But now, I shuddered. But it wasn't from sorrow. Now that they are here, alive, together, please don't let it all backfire. No bullshit dark twists, just this once. I've seen the horrible worlds Nyathilatrat inspires. I know how he operates. And these Scootaloos, they were alive now, but the universe doesn't exactly have room for over 100,000 of the same pony. I'd seen what happened with the last of ponies that shouldn't exist. Pinky's never really gotten over it. These Scootaloos, what'll happen to them after everything's said and done? Please, I pray, please let them have a bright future. Let them find happiness. If nothing else, let their world be kind. I see how each of them looks at me, even knowing all the horrible things I did to them, with nothing but love and adoration in their eyes. It terrifies me after everything that's happened. Not because I don't want it, Sanity knows I do, but because I'm so scared of it all blowing up in my face. Maybe if I only let myself smirk smugly, instead of grinning ear to ear and laughing my flanks off. Maybe if I don't say any of those awful, vainglorious words. Maybe if I don't let myself bask too long in the gratitude of Razaru's smile. Starlight took my hoof with a smile. I know how you feel right now. I made a huge mistake before too. It can be hard to accept you can do good after doing something horrible. But you'll never be able to enjoy anything if you don't try. I didn't argue. I just watched the blaze of Origin Purple through my tears. Scootaloo, Razaru is crying too. It's wonderful to see you again. You, Pinkie Pie, Rainbow Dash. You're all wonderful ponies. Yes, 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 all of you. May all your days be bright. I whispered, may all your days be bright.